day overall, and I suppose did the wicket play as you expected it would?
I think a pretty good day. I think it's obviously an attritional day, and I think we probably anticipated doing a little bit more. It was incredibly dry compared to the first test wicket, so we thought that it would start to break up, which it has. I think if you go and have a look at the surface now, the footmarks have really come to the fore, and it'll get dustier and dustier. So potentially you thought it'd do a little bit more, but pretty content with the day as well.
And how did you, what sort of plans were made to sort of, I suppose, manage the bowlers, given obviously the change composition of the attack, and I suppose other three frontline bowlers?
Yeah, I think once again we anticipate maybe not the amount of overs bowled in the first innings, but I think the fact that Starkey was able to step up in particular and come back for multiple spells, I think there's probably an expectation in this part of the world, and particularly Gaul, that it's that first spell, create some inroads and then maybe come back for shorter spells later in the day. But he was able to maintain his speed. I thought his speed was exceptional throughout the day, and constantly posed questions. So he presented as more of an option than potentially we anticipated, and then Nathan was Nathan, and then we were able to work around him, and once again Hetty gave us that crucial wicket, and a number of overs as well.
Dan, you lost the toss, and obviously they got off to a decent start. Do you feel like you're ahead of the game with the total that they have at the moment?
I think it's pretty tight. I think, like I said, we anticipate the wicket coming to the fore in terms of those footmarks and it breaking up and becoming quite dusty. I think Sri Lanka played the style of game where they wanted to bat an extended period of time. I think they were probably a lot more aggressive in the first test, and this today in particular, Chandimal was very selective with the shots and played exceptionally well, and that partnership between the two Mendises at the end showed that you can, I suppose, compete on this wicket, albeit that it is tricky. So those three in particular, and Karunaratne as well, I think showed the application that's probably required on the surface.
Do you expect Cooper to bowl a little bit more?
I think the game will speed up in that second innings, and there'll be ample opportunities for Coop to come in, particularly with that top order sort of dominated by right-handers. I think that's one of the reasons for selection is his ability to take the ball away, and how tricky Cooney was in that first test and again today.
Can you just talk to us about the conversations that were had before that decision to put Cooper in it and to drop Todd as well?
Well, I think, like I said before, the anticipation that the wicket would probably be slightly more extreme than the first test match, and then we thought that the number of overs would come down and maybe batting would come to the fore. So having Coop's ability to bat down the order and thinking that his left arm spin was a good option too. So incredibly tough call on Murph, because I think whenever he's come into the team he's done a fantastic job. It was just our interpretation of the wicket led us to believe that runs are going to be a premium.
And is Josh Eagles okay? He's still with Stoinis?
Yeah.
He's back stiff and sore, so we'll do one ball against. So yes, he's feel tomorrow.
Dan, you did a lot of work with Cooper in Dubai, and I just wondering what sort of the stuff you were working on there was, and given these sort of so raw in terms of first class experience, is it pretty rare that you get almost like a blank canvas to work with?
I think so. I think the good thing for Cooper is that his primary skill is his batting. So he's in the team as a batsman, and therefore, like you say, it's a blank canvas with his bowling. I think the amount of overs he's bowled in Dubai and now in the sort of 10 or so days we've been in Gaul is probably the most he's bowled in his career. So I think he's going through a learning stage, understanding what it takes to compete on these sorts of wickets, because he's really used to the Optus whacker sort of style where it skids on. So trying to get an understanding around what style will work for him, and learning from Gaz and Cooney as well. So I think he's just one of those guys who embraces everything and happy to be here and happy to try anything.
Yeah, just about I suppose the interpretation of the wicket for the game. Like, how much is it just simply how dry it is, or how much is it that you think it's going to, I guess, shift, or the ball break the surface easily? That
Yeah, I think the dryness was the starting point. I think the first test had a little tacky dampness together, which held it together. We anticipated held it together a little bit longer, which we think it did. This one was full of cracks, loose, and as dry as you'll see. So, the anticipation was that it would turn big, and it did turn, but it probably wasn't as consistent as we thought, and there's probably a bit more low bounce than we anticipated as well. So once again, that's why we thought runs would be a premium, and we're going to have to match whatever Sri Lanka do in this first innings and a little bit more, because batting's going to become more and more difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say, just as a follow-up, it's one of those games where ideally you make as many as you can in the first time you get a bat.
Yeah, it's probably got similar path to the first test last time we were here, where Sri Lanka made, I think, just over 200. We made 300 and then bowled them out for 100. So it feels like that sort of wicket. Not saying that it's going to play out like that again, but it's going to be first innings runs are going to play a huge role in whoever wins this game.
Was it also a question that what stages of the day in terms, like the new ball didn't seem to grip too much, obviously skip through, but there was a middle session where it was really gripping and turning even from the middle of the pitch. So would that inform you even as a batting group to know that once it gets to 60 overs, maybe you can bat more easily?
Yeah, I think once again, I think we anticipate the new ball spinning a little bit more, but I think when you saw Nathan and the overspin, it started to bear fruit. So I just think it's going to be a tricky wicket the whole way along, and obviously Mendes has a lot of experience bowling here, Jayasuriya, so they've got the capabilities to come really hard at us with their bowling group. I think Dhananjaya looked like he was bowling this morning as well, so that's a really well-rounded group of spinners who know these conditions well. So I think we anticipate it's going to be difficult the whole way through.
And just one on Matt Kuhneman and his improvement now. I mean, he said he feels like a different bowler since he's come back to the side since 2023. What have you made of him so far this year?
Well, I think one of the big changes for him is moving to Tasmania and getting a lot more opportunity to bowl in conditions that encourage spin a little bit more and being the frontline spinner. So I think he's taken that role on and come into the group more confident in his skills. And the fact that he's been able to battle through that injury and turn up and compete with everything. I mean, it doesn't even look like he's broken his thumb. And then I think it's his consistency and his repeatability that's stepped up from the last time. I think he still bowled a lot of wicket-taking balls in that series in India, but I think he'll admit that at times you could probably let them off with missing length occasionally. But this time it feels like he's been relentless the whole time.
Last one, yeah.
Dan, just on a slightly unrelated note, but Marcus Stoinis in the announcement of his one-day retirement. Did you see that? How were you involved in those conversations, Bill? Does it surprise you to make that call so close to a Champions Trophy? And so what does that say more about the broader T20 circuit?
I wasn't involved in those discussions, but I think from our perspective, I suppose Storm was trying to map out where one-day cricket was going from. 2027 World Cup's obviously a long way away, but he's been an integral part of our team. I think the way that he balances out the unit, and from my perspective, the way he's been able to lead with the ball at times. I think back to that 2023 World Cup and those 2 breakthroughs against Pakistan, his style of bowling, his aggressiveness, and when the big 3 weren't able to get a breakthrough or Zamps, then Stoin was turned to a lot from the bowling front, and he brought a real energy and attitude that I think is reflective for probably our all-rounders going forward, that style, we need someone to be able to step into that space. So he's been an amazing servant for Australia in the one-day space.
Great, thanks everyone.